in the collapsed and chaotic space, a bit of cold light suddenly appeared. It seemed that it had originally attacked Yonkai's back. However, the chaotic space affected the accuracy of the cold light, causing it to fail to play its role. The space crack swallowed almost all the power. With a soft heart, the third figure appeared like a ghost, frowning and jumping back, with a solemn expression on his face, shaking his head and sighing, "It's really hard to deal with." Yongkai stood still, standing on the ground like a rock, looking back coldly, somewhat surprised. "Lai Feng, you are here." He didn't expect that the third person who attacked him was Lai Feng from the Wild Lion territory. The top rookies from the 3 territories of the monster race are now gathered together. Mitian and Shui Lian ambushing him. Jiang Kai can understand. After all, he and these 2 people have some friction. How can they give up? But Lai Feng also participated in this matter, which really surprised him. When he first entered the blood prison, the guy Lai Feng invited him to act together, and within a few days this guy turned out to be the enemy from the sneak attack. On the Monster Mountain, the monster chi is pervasive. With the help of the monster chi of this place, these 3 monster race rookies perfectly hide themselves. If Yonkai's senses were not sharp, he might have been successfully attacked by Lai Feng. "Lai Feng, I have no grievances and no grudges against you, right?" Yongkai looked at him coldly and asked indifferently. Lai Feng gave a dry smile and said in a deep voice, "Naturally there is no such thing." "Then why did you do this?" Yongkai squinted his eyes. "Brother Yang, forgive me." Lai Feng seemed a little embarrassed. Hearing the words, he arched his hands and said calmly, "To be honest, if I can, Lai Feng doesn't want to be an enemy of Brother Yang. It's just the matter of void mind crystal Lai Feng cannot ignore." "Do not ask." Yang Kai nodded, understood. Since Brother Yang understands, Lai Feng has nothing to say. Void mind crystal, every lord wants to get it. But no one has a way to take it out. Now that Brother Yang has achieved this, Lai Feng can't do anything. "I ask you to leave it here. If Brother Yang can surrender the void mind crystal, I think Shui Lian and Mi Tian will let you go safely. Do you think I will hand it over?" Yang Kai sneered softly. Lai Feng thought seriously for a while, and said seriously, "I'm afraid not. If it was me, I wouldn't either." "What are you doing talking nonsense with him? Just join hands to kill him together. No matter how powerful he is only one person. We are still afraid of him when we join forces." Shui Lian is the most hot-tempered, seeing Yongkai and Lai Feng talking endlessly, suddenly burst into a loud shout. With the force of his feet, he rushed towards Yongkai. With an astonishing momentum, a huge blood flood dragon phantom suddenly appeared behind him. Shui Lian clearly knows Yongkai's strength, and will fight him with full power when he shot. Mitn didn't mean too much nonsense. The moment Shui Lian started, he screamed, and the monster flower on the top of his head suddenly whirled. Pieces of petals flew out and disappeared into the void. Lai Feng's figure faded ghostly again, and then disappeared without a trace. No one knew where he went. The fierce offensive of the 3 rookies of the monster race broke out in an instant. "Okay. Since you are looking for death, then I will fulfill it for you." Yongkai, 1 against 3, not only fearless. On the contrary, his expression was stern and rampant. The 5 colorful rays of light suddenly covered his whole body, and the sound of chi-chi-chi came from all over his body. Small and almost invisible 5-element sword chi emerged from each of his pores. They were extremely sharp, not only providing him with considerable protection, but also has a strong killing power. The 5 elements indestructible sword chi is both offensive and defensive. The muscles all over his body were raised high, full of explosive power. Yongkai slammed 3 punches forward to meet the frenzied attack of Shui Lian. The violent energy that the 2 broke out collided in the middle position. Sputtering into the void, there was a huge noise. Yongkai remained motionless. Shui Lian's body shook 3 times, and his arms suddenly slumped down weakly for a moment. In a frontal collision, he is obviously not Yonkai's opponent. Without giving Shui Lian a chance to react, Yang Kai rubbed his hands together, and among the golden light dozens of golden blood threads suddenly emerged. In the entanglement and twisting, a golden spear was formed, and it trembled slightly. Stabbed towards Shui Lian at an extremely fast speed. Shui Lian's complexion changed drastically, his eyes revealed a look of shock. As soon as they fought, he realized that Yang Kai was stronger than when he fought him in the palace. At that time, he had a little bit of strength with him, but now he was completely suppressed, and there was no idea of resistance at all. The opponent's offensive ruined his confidence. This situation can only be explained by two possibilities. One is that Yang Kai didn't use all his strength at the time, and the other is that Yang Kai has grown a lot in the blood prison. Shui Lian's courage broke entirely. Perceiving the terrifying damage contained in the golden spear, he did not dare to neglect, and hurriedly sacrificed the protective secret treasure in front of him, and at the same time crossed his arms across his chest, gritted his teeth and roared, preparing for such an attack. Bang! The sound is like the gold and iron clashing, burst out and spread throughout the entire monster mountain. The protective secret treasure that was hurriedly sacrificed by Shui Lian failed to play any role, and was directly pierced by the golden spear, stabbing him unabated. On the arms of Shui Lian, the blood-colored scales were pierced, and a large hole appeared immediately. The wound was deeply visible, and the fresh blood was diffused instantly. His body also flew out under the huge force, and shot right into the cave. A rush of noise came from the depths of the cave, and it didn't stop for a long time. No one knew where Shui Lian was hit and how the injuries were. Yang Kai is not stopping, turned around abruptly, and waved his hand towards the void behind him. A huge crescent-shaped space crack immediately formed and swallowed it fiercely. The strange cry of Lai Feng came out, and the figure appeared embarrassed, retreat hurriedly, looking at the crescent-shaped space crack with solemn expression, did not dare to be lighthearted, and could only avoid it. He was forced out by Yang Kai before he even launched an attack. Pieces of petals suddenly appeared around Yang Kai, spinning around like a sharp blade, shrouding Yang Kai in all directions. As the petals were spinning, the sweet smell scattered everywhere, which seemed to affect people's mind. At this time, Yang Kai was forced to retreat from Lai Feng, and his movements stopped. Mi Tian had a good timing with his attacks. In an instant, those countless petals wrapped up Yang Kai's location, suddenly forming a monster flower, reappearing in everyone's eyes. And Yang Kai has disappeared. He seems to have been swallowed by the flowers. Mi Tian frowned and looked around nervously. He could perceive that his attack had no effect, and Yang Kai escaped at a critical time. Want to kill me? The three of you don't seem to have enough weight. A sarcastic voice came from the side. Mi Tian's eyes shrank, and he quickly looked there, and he saw Yang Kai standing unscathed in the void. His face suddenly became gloomy. Lai Feng appeared silently beside Mi Tian, with a cold face, and said nothing. The three rookies of the monster race teamed up, not to mention that they can compete with the Void King realm, at least they are absolutely invincible at the level of Void Return stage. They are not ordinary Void Return stage, they are all top masters on Monster Emperor Star. But the result of the battle made their hearts chill. Yang Kai didn't take much effort to resolve their offensive one by one. Shui Lian was even beaten into the cave. There has been no movement until now. Don't know if he is alive or dead, and the remaining two have been completely suppressed. Is this guy still a human? Lai Feng's eyes twitched, regretting coming to this muddy water. He knew that Yang Kai was strong, otherwise, he wouldn't be able to teach Shui Lian a lesson in the palace, so when he first entered the blood prison, he would invite Yang Kai to act together. But after learning about Void Mind Crystal from Mi Tian and Shui Lian, he couldn't just sit idly by. Void Mind Crystal is too precious, so precious that he would rather take a risk once. He thought that Yang Kai would definitely be outnumbered by joining forces with Shui Lian and Mi Tian, but judging from the short moment of the fight, the situation is not optimistic. This guy is so heaven-defying. With the cultivation level of second order Void Return stage, he can achieve this level. Since ancient times, it has never been seen. Lai Feng, you will not regret it. You have to know that there is no regret medicine in this world. Today, it is either he died or we died. Mitian gave him a gloomy look. He was determined to take Yang Kai life here. Lai Feng shook his head slowly. I know that there is no turning back once the arrow is released from the bow. Well, wait for Brother Shui Lian to come out. Only when the three of us work together can we have chance. He did not refute. Facing Yang Kai, he had already put away his pride. The two stood there side by side, looking at Yang Kai in the cave from time to time, anxious. Shui Lian still did not move, as if he was really killed by Yang Kai with a single move. But this is impossible. No matter how powerful Yang Kai is, Shui Lian has displayed the transformation of Blood Flood Dragon, and his defense is solid. How can he be killed by that kind of attack? Mitian and Lai Feng couldn't figure out what the Shui Lian was doing, so they scolded Shui Lian in their hearts and blamed him for screwing up at a critical moment. At this moment, a terrible roar suddenly came out from the cave, and the roar was thunderous and deafening. It's Shui Lian. Mitian frowned, and his expression became uncertain. He don't know if Shui Lian is going crazy. Even if the heart is unwilling, he should rush out to fight Yang Kai. What is he doing? It doesn't seem to be right. Lai Feng suddenly felt panicked and uneasy. Inexplicably, an unprecedented sense of crisis spread from the bottom of his heart. As if he didn't retreat immediately, he would soon be worried about his life. This feeling makes him uncomfortable. Like Lai Feng and Mitian, Yang Kai also looked into the cave with dignified eyes, faintly aware of something wrong. But he was more curious. He didn't know what Shui Lian was doing, or whether he was about to perform some earth-shattering secret technique. To be continued.